I have been so excited to record this episode because almost every couple I work with, in fact, probably every couple I work with, struggles with this. And I have so many friends and family members who do too. So a few months ago, a husband sat across from me in a session and said, I've asked her like 400 times to just put her shoes by the door. Stop leaving them in the middle of the floor. Yes, the husband. I know you're like, wait, usually it's the wife. No, it was the husband. And his wife looked at him and said, and I've asked you 400 times to stop keeping the score on this and like keeping track of it. Let me just live my life, basically. Now, she didn't say it exactly that way, but that's me paraphrasing. Neither one of them was wrong about what they were asking, but neither one of them was asking the real question. The real question was sitting right underneath the argument, and nobody had said it out loud yet. Not, why won't you just do the thing, but is there a reason this keeps happening over and over, no matter how many times we talk about it? Today, we're talking about ADHD in long-term relationships, specifically the couples where nobody has a diagnosis. Nobody's been to a doctor and got the official test done, but one of you has started wondering, maybe for a while now, if there's something going on that explains the pattern you can't argue your way out of. Now, this is not a symptom checklist episode. I'm not here to diagnose your partner, but what I want to do is show you how undiagnosed ADHD, when it's not named and not supported, becomes a wedge in a relationship, and how you can get the wedge out. So go grab a warm drink, pen and paper, and let's dive in. Welcome to Relationship Reset, a podcast for high-achieving couples who've been together for over a decade and don't want to feel like roommates anymore. I'm Katie Russler, relationship strategist and couples counselor with almost 20 years of experience helping ambitious couples reconnect, strengthen communication, and turn their relationship into the best part of their success story. This podcast is about using practical tools and a lot of real talk to help you understand your patterns, stop feeling stuck and discouraged, and start working on your relationship in ways that actually fit your busy life. Because your relationship shouldn't be the cost of your success, it should be the best part of it. So let's dive in. Let's talk about that couple. I'm going to name them Tasha and Colin. Of course, I give everybody different names, and I'm very careful with their stories. They were married for over 10 years. They had 2 kids, and both of them had full careers, and of course, the household was running at full force. Colin came into our first session, and the word he used was exhausted. Not tired, but exhausted. He said he felt like a manager of a project that never closed out. Every renovation, every school form, every plan for a weekend trip, he was the one carrying it to the finish line. Because if he didn't, it just sort of hovered, half done for months. Now, Tasha wasn't lazy. He was very clear about that, and I could tell as well. She worked harder than almost anyone that he knew. She'd start a project with more energy and more ideas than he had. And then 3 days later, it was still sitting there. Supplies still in the bag, and he'd quietly finish it himself, so it would stop bothering him. He stopped asking her to remember things because she wouldn't, and then he resented having to hold it all. And then he felt guilty for resenting someone he loved. Tasha, for her part, had spent 11 years absorbing a very specific story about herself, that she was flaky and disorganized, not someone people could count on. She told me she'd rehearsed an apology in her head so many times it had worn a groove in her mind. I'm sorry, I know I keep forgetting, and I know I keep saying I won't do it again. And eventually she just started becoming reactive and not aggressive, but like passive-aggressive towards things he was doing so that she could smokescreen the problems that she kept running into. See, Tasha had a cousin who was recently diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, and reading about it had scared her a little because a lot of it sounded uncomfortably familiar. The trouble finishing what she started, the half-read books stacked by the bed, being told her whole life she just needed to try harder, focus more, have a better routine, when trying harder never seemed to change the outcome. What I can tell you, after 20 years of doing this work, that when a couple is in a pattern like Tasha and Colin and they're stuck, when one partner suspects something neurologically is happening, the conversation itself, not the diagnosis, but the actual conversation about it, is often what starts to change the relationship. Let's talk about what's actually happening in a relationship when ADHD is present and unsupported. I want to walk through 5 patterns, again, not as a symptom list for you to grade your partner on, but as a map of where connection quietly breaks down. Okay, the first one is time. For a lot of couples, lateness gets read as disrespect. If you cared, you'd be on time. But for a brain with ADHD, time doesn't operate on a straight line the way it does for other couples. There's a concept called time blindness, and it's not an excuse, okay? It's just a wiring difference of the brain. 5 minutes and 45 minutes can feel identical from the inside, right? For them, it's like, oh yeah, I've got tons of time. Until the moment they realize, oh, they don't. So here's the problem. The partner waiting in the car isn't thinking about the neurological difference. They're thinking the story I'm telling myself is that my time matters less than whatever they're doing. That story is the wedge, not the lateness itself, but the meaning attached to it. I don't matter enough to you for you to be on time. We're always late to things and you don't see how that embarrasses me, right? Yeah, the lateness sucks, but it's the story that starts being created and reinforced because there's no full discussion of what's actually going on. Number 2, the unfinished project. This was Colin's exhaustion from the example earlier. The desk half organized, the closet with one shelf redone, and the rest still in bags. For a partner without ADHD, unfinished things read as a lack of follow through, maybe even a lack of respect for shared responsibilities. But starting is often the easy part for an ADHD brain because starting is novel and interesting. It's the dopamine hits that they love to receive. Finishing requires sustained executive function on a task that's no longer new, and that's a genuinely different skill. The couple I see most often here isn't fighting about the closet or the unfinished project. They're fighting about what the closet or project means. One partner hears, I can't rely on you to see something through. The other partner hears, nothing I do is ever enough. You only see what I didn't finish. Okay, number 3, clutter and disorganization. I want to be careful here because I've done a whole episode on how clutter can be about attention and connection, not character. Remember, I shared my own stuff. This is a little different. For a brain managing ADHD, the visual pile is often a working memory system. Out of sight really is out of mind. The mail stacks up not from carelessness, but because it goes into a drawer. It disappears from that person's mental radar entirely. For the partner sharing the space, though, it doesn't feel like a working memory system. It feels like living inside someone else's overflow, and eventually like your home doesn't feel calm to you anymore. Both of those things are true at the same time. That's the part couples miss. Nobody has to be the villain for both of the experiences to be real. Number 4, forgetting. This is the one I feel like that cuts deepest because we've culturally decided that remembering equals loving. Terry Real talks about so much relational pain comes from a partner deciding that a behavior means something about their worth when it's actually about the other person's internal wiring. Forgetting an anniversary detail or a conversation from Tuesday or the thing you asked them to grab from the store gets translated into, I don't matter enough to remember. And that translation is devastating, even when it isn't accurate. Okay, the last pattern, number 5, needing reminders. This is where I see the most resentment build because it changes the entire shape of the relationship. One partner starts functioning as a project manager, a calendar, and an alarm clock. For someone they're supposed to be equal partners with. That's an exhausting role to be handed without ever agreeing to it. And the partner who needs the reminders often feels the shame of it every single time, which makes them more avoidant, not less, which then requires more reminders. It's a loop that feeds itself. Here's what I want you to see underneath all 5 of these. None of this is about who tries harder. Dr. John Gottman's research on couples has shown for decades that the fights that repeat, the ones that never resolve, are almost always about something deeper than the surface issue. The mail pile is never actually about the mail. It's about whether you can count on each other, whether you're seen by your partner, whether your reality gets to be real in this relationship too. If one of you suspects ADHD is in the mix, the goal of this conversation is not to fix your partner. It's to finally have accurate information about why a pattern exists, so you can stop fighting about the pattern and start building around it. Okay, here's 3 tips I want you to walk away with. Tip number 1, separate the behavior from the character. Every time the wedge shows up, ask yourself before you react, is this happening because they don't care or because their brain processes this differently than mine does? You don't have to know the answer for certain, okay? But just asking it out loud, even to yourself, changes what happens next in your body and in the conversation. Tip number 2, build the system together, not around your partner. This is the shift I gave Tasha and Colin. Instead of Colin quietly finishing everything so it would stop bothering him, they built one shared visual system, a single whiteboard by the door, for anything with more than one step. Not a system Colin manages for Tasha, a system they both check. And they created a way for them to check it together. Externalizing memory takes the job off one person's shoulders and puts it somewhere both of you can see it. Tip number 3, and you can try this one today. Ask, don't diagnose. Have one honest conversation using this exact sentence. I've noticed a pattern and I want to understand it better, not to try to fix you or change you. Would you be open to exploring whether ADHD might be part of the dynamic between us? That's it. Not an accusation, not saying I think this is what you have or for sure that's what you have and let me show you a bunch of Instagram reels on it or this YouTube video. You just want to have an open conversation to see, has it been on the radar? And they might go, no, absolutely not. And you can say then, I've just noticed A, B, C, D, and E, and it makes me wonder, maybe our fights aren't about you not caring or me feeling like the parent in the relationship, but actually that how our brains process information is different. And that's okay. I think it's something that we need to explore. Here's something I want you to think about. A pattern that repeats, no matter how many times you've talked about it, usually isn't a willpower problem. It's a wiring question that's never been asked out loud. Asking it doesn't excuse the impact on the other partner, and it doesn't mean therapy or a diagnosis is the only path forward. It means you finally get to stop guessing at each other's intentions and start working with what's actually true. If this episode kicked up some things for you and maybe some conversations you need to have with your partner that you're a little bit nervous to do, I encourage you to schedule a relationship game plan call. It's 45 minutes for free, and I get to talk with the two of you and hear your stories as well as the challenges you're facing to help you create a game plan for your relationship. And to be honest, if I hear some things that come up, I do ask the question, have either of you been diagnosed with ADHD or anxiety or depression? Because those things need to be brought to the forefront and it can help the couple finally let go of that pressure cooker of, oh my gosh, is it this? And start to get the support that they need. So make sure you schedule your time in the link in the show notes. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode and please reach out and let me know if this topic rings true in your family and in your relationship too. I'll see you next week. Before you go, I want to leave you with this. The effort you put into your relationship is one of the most important investments you'll ever make. How you communicate and grow together shapes your home, your leadership, and the example you set for the people around you. Relationship work is truly legacy work, and it quietly impacts more lives than we often realize. If this episode resonated, consider sharing it with someone you care about, a partner, a friend, or another couple who's building a full life and want their relationship to be the best part of it too. And if you're enjoying these conversations, make sure to follow or subscribe to Relationship Reset. Leaving a rating or review also helps this message reach more couples who are ready to grow with intention. I'll see you next week.